Hey guys, it's Hans Hobbies, and I'm just about done building my Tamiya G601, and I had some build comments about it. And I'll go in the chronological order that I did it, and that's starting with the body. So the body, um, it's very thin, so you can see just it's it's very flexible, especially with this large canopy, like square canopy on it. It's very flexible, and it's very thin. Like the back here in the window, I'm barely putting any pressure on it. You can see it's already like pushing in at the corner. So I don't expect this body to last very long if you do any kind of hard crashes or bashing with it. But it does look very good. You can see I've done it in the box art just for now. Um, it does look very good, but a couple things about it. The window on the King Yellow version, from this window to the last window here, it's just one huge sticker, or at least that's how Tamiya wants you to cut it out, and that makes it so it's very difficult to get bubbles to not show up at the windows. You can kind of see some discoloration on the window, and also it has this weird like frosty pattern on all the windows, which I don't really like. So what I would recommend is just place it all like this, and then just cut the clear parts out with a knife for all the windows, because every single window is pretty much all like that. Even like the door, even on the back, they all have this weird texture on it, and they have the weird gross looking bubbles. So I would recommend just cutting those windows out. um I'll do that later, but for now I just wanted to show you guys like all the bubbles that it shows up. And if you do paint it anything other than yellow, you're gonna have to paint all these pillars separately, because all of these little pillars for the window frame, they're yellow. And this door is yellow. This rear door sticker is yellow, because instead of just doing the lines and the window, what they did was just put the whole door as a sticker. So you're gonna have to just paint that yourself instead of using the sticker, or just get creative with lining. So that is a shame. Let's see. Oh, and then a lot of round edges. So a lot of the edges on this is flat. So a lot of the decals end up sticking a lot better than on other cars. But you see these divots on the top. Those are supposed to be little lights. They're supposed to have little orange stickers on it. I took them off because this is a very large rounded bump, and the stickers don't like to stay on the edges. The decals usually never want to stay on a rounded surface, and that is very apparent on these taillights, unfortunately, and all the little spotlight, like warning lights. Like all the edges of these are peeling, and they just won't stick. So I'm gonna have to figure something out for that. If you guys have an idea on how to do that, uh, leave it down in the comments below. But yeah, I really don't. I'm really not liking this. I really don't like when they make you put stickers on round surfaces. But being round, it also shouldn't be hard to just cut these out and just put LEDs in it. But we'll see what I do. Um, Also these black parts here, with where the lights go, those are separate plastic parts, and the instructions don't tell you to screw them on. You can see here they're not actually screwed on. They're double sticky. They want you to put double sticky tape on these and stick them on, which might work fine for the front, but for the rear, it's a curved surface, so I don't know how well that's gonna work. What I did was I put shoe glue on it, and that seems to stick it really well. And shoe glue will hold it on a lot better, and will cover a bigger surface area than the double sticky tape will. So my windshield here, you can see, is really clear, and that's because I focus on the right thing. and that's because I cut the clear decal part out. You can see where it's a little bit of it's left on the wipers, but I cut it out and it looks a lot better, so I might end up doing that on the rest of the windows. You will lose this tint effect, but I think I'd rather not have tint than have this weird and ugly bubbles going on around everywhere. Oh, also, last thing is about the body is the fenders, the front fenders are black, and this is a decal. I would recommend if you don't get the pre-painted version, just mask this off real quick and just spray it with some black paint because this sticker sucks. You can see mine's already peeling in the corners. Again, like I'm really not a big fan of round surfaces. A lot of these decals, it's very easy to just paint. Like all these black stripes are also just stickers. So, um, if you don't mind a little extra masking, I would recommend, other than all like some of these details, like the emergency exit and stuff, just paint all these yourself. Um, it'll look a lot better, and you won't have to deal with peeling decals. There's nothing we can really do about the lights, unfortunately, other than putting real lights in it. But you know, the front actually sticks on pretty well. And fortunately, the main grill is really flat, so that does stick also pretty well. Oh, another thing, I keep uh, remembering things. The black on the front and rear bumpers are also decals. That also shouldn't be very hard to mask off and paint yourself, so that's what I would recommend you do. Let's see. And then a few comments about the actual chassis. So as I was building it, this has a lot of bearings in it. It has 36, I believe, of these 5x11 bearings. So before you build, if you buy a bearing kit, make sure you have all the bearings because I bought the DSM off-road set, and they're usually really good about having all the bearings, and they even started marking all the individual sized bags to say how many bearings there should be. The bag for my 5x11, oh here it is. It does say 36 on it, but it only included 24 for some reason. So I've contacted them about that, but I did pilfer some bearings off of some of my other kits, so it is built for now. So bearings are something you should watch out for. Um, Also, depending on the bearing set you get, make sure you do get two more of these little bearings. These 5x8.2 bearings. I don't know why my phone doesn't want to focus. 5x8 by 2.5 millimeter bearings. So it will be these little guys. That goes in the steering, and the reason you want four is that those go into the little steering mount there. And if you do rear steer, you're gonna need two more of those. So that's the only reason you need those. If you don't do rear steer, then don't worry about it. Another comment was the way the steering is mounted. I don't really like this method because you see the screw here. If you undo the screw, there's a pin that looks like, you can find it in here. There's a pin that looks like this that basically like just slides in through like a hole like that, and it's fine for the build, but when you have to disassemble it, I'm afraid that it's gonna be a pain to take it out. What you might end up having to do is just disassemble the entire chassis down the middle and pull it out that way, which is gonna be a real pain. But hopefully that's not a part that you're gonna have to change very often. Another comment is in the very beginning of the manual, it does tell you to put on these little pieces, this E2 piece and this E3 piece. It tells you to slide those into where the middle suspension will mount, and that's just to center the screw for the middle suspension arm and the middle A arm and the middle upper tie rod piece. Um, I don't know exactly why they decided to do it this way, but yeah, the E2 piece can go either direction because it's symmetrical. But this E3 piece, you see this note here. You have to make sure that it's in the correct direction. Otherwise, when you try to screw it in, the head of the screw is going to collide with the edge here, and it's not going to let you sit it all the way. So if your screw starts binding, or if the screw head hits this piece, make sure that you have this piece um, in the right orientation. And also you can see here, it comes with this anti-wear grease that it tells you to place on basically just these two pieces for both sides of the chassis. So like 4 of these, or like 2 of these and 2 of these. And it says you need to put the little grease on it because the grease apparently keeps the dirt and dust out of the chassis. So I don't really like the idea of the dirt and dust being kept out exclusively with uh, grease. So I'll have to see how long that lasts. But that is something you want to pace pretty liberally. I would think, just to keep all the dust and dirt out. Yeah, it says in this, apply anti-wear grease to prevent dust and sand from entering. So I'm not a big fan of that. Another note is you're gonna want more grease. So it gives you 2 of these things of grease. By the time I was done with building the transmission or this gearbox, it's a lot of gears in here, as you can see. So it requires a lot of grease. And there's also 3 diffs, and each diff needs grease inside of it. So it uses a lot of grease early on. So you're either gonna want to ration your grease, or if you want a lot of grease in your transmission, have an extra. I have extra grease laying around. I have a lot of these Tamiya grease laying around, so I did have enough. But that is something to note. Another thing to note is, let's see, it comes right here. So these grub screws, you don't want to forget these grub screws, because apparently these grub screws also prevent dust and sand from entering the chassis. I honestly don't really understand why these protrusions are here in the first place, these things, but you do want to put the grub screws in there, as they say. Don't forget to do that. Again, they're all plastic gears, so any amount of dust and sand you can keep out of your transmission is a good thing. Also, when you're building the transmission, don't be concerned if you have gears left over, because that's not you building it wrong. It just includes 3 extra gears for some reason. It's just like one extra gear of each type, other than the idler and the diff gears. So it is nice that it includes some extra gears. I'm not sure why they did that, but it does have a lot of gears in it. So if you happen to strip one of these gears out, you're set out of the box. Um, and the last note is, if you do have the King Yellow version of the G601, when you do look at the instructions, it shows the Kong head version, because that was the first version that came out. So when it says to put the body mounts on, if you have the King Yellow version, you want to ignore this section. So this is the body mounts meant for the Kong head. The King Yellow body mount instructions are separate with the body instructions. So you can see you have to build this special little extension post. And while you build that, you do have to also be careful of the little threaded rod you use, because the threaded rod they want you to use is, where'd it go? Here it is this one. And that's important to note, because they do also have, in a separate package, these longer ones. You do not want to use these longer ones when you're building the body mounts, because these extra longer ones are meant to be used as your steering turnbuckles when you do the rear steer. So that's what these parts are for. So make sure you use the shorter one, and not the longer one when you're assembling the body mount. But yep, that was some of my build notes about the King Yellow G601. I just have to put the bumpers on, get the body mounts put on, and put the hubs and wheels on, and I'll test drive it. And so yeah, I'll do a running video of it. I'll do a full review video of it. So those will come out when they come out. And if you guys found this video informative or entertaining, subscribe, comment down below, like, dislike, all the good YouTube shenanigans. And I'll see you guys next time.